How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. And today I'm going to be showing you guys how to change your IP address. Now, there are several methods you could do that. And one of the easiest methods, obviously, is using a VPN. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But just to mention a few other methods, if you don't want to buy a VPN, if you don't have a VPN, if you don't want to use a VPN, uh, resetting your router is one of the simplest ways of changing your IP address. Just turn off your router, disconnect it from power, and leave it off for a few minutes, and turn it back on, and you should have an IP address. If you go to right here, whatismyipaddress.com, it'll give you your IP address, and you could check it before you turn it off and check it after you turn it off and see if it actually changed. Now, what happens when you turn off your router is that you're disconnecting from your ISP, your internet service provider. And when you do that, you are kind of, forsaking, for lack of a better word, you're forsaking your own IP address so that, your ISP could actually recycle it and give it to someone else who just turned their router back on, or who just got a subscription from that ISP, so on and so forth. Now, sometimes some ISPs will actually recognize that it's actually the same router that just went off for a couple minutes and came back on, depending on how they go about their systems and stuff like that. They might give you the same IP address, so you might notice that, it's not really changing. So you'd have to contact your ISP and ask them to change your IP address. And depending on where you live, they might ask you, why do you want to change your IP address? What's the reasoning behind it? They might ask you a couple of questions, and that might be a bit of a nuisance for some people, because you might just want to change your IP address for no reason at all, or for reasons that you may not want to talk about, in which case, I don't know what to tell you. And if you don't want to tell these reasons to your ISP, well, I guess you could try other methods, such as switching to a different network, or just using a different Wi-Fi. That's clearly a different IP. You can use a proxy server, but we're not going to talk about that right now. You could use a proxy server, generate some random IP from the internet, and use it on your proxy server. That's a different video. So the method we're going to talk about today is using a VPN. Now, that is one of the easiest ways to change your IP address. It's very effective. It gives you thousands and thousands of servers, and which means thousands of different IP addresses that you could just hop around in between, and yeah, it's a lovely time. Now, when we're using ExpressVPN, ExpressVPN is one of the easiest, most effective VPNs out there. I like to call it the Apple of VPNs. It's known for reliability, safety and privacy and security, and it's pretty quick. So yeah, it's very effective, it's very easy to use, and if you are interested in it, you can I'll leave some links in the description down below if you're looking for some special deals. Sometimes I happen to find these deals where you may not find them on the ExpressVPN or other VPN websites, the original websites. So I'll just link whatever offers I find down below. Feel free to take advantage of those. Now, what you want to do is when you load up your VPN or ExpressVPN or whatever VPN you have, all you have to do, usually there's just a on button for VPNs, and ExpressVPN it's right here, okay? Other VPNs, you might have to actually double click the server or something like that. It depends on what the user interface is like. Now, here it's very simple. It's as simple as clicking this on button right here, and now I'm in the Netherlands. Now, if you look here, my IP address was in France because I was in a French server earlier when I tested this. When I refresh this page right here, what is my IP address, I should be in the Netherlands. So let's put it to the test. See, okay, so the IP just changed and I am in the Netherlands indeed. So it's just as simple. It's super simple to use a VPN and hide my IP address or use other IPs. Now let's go to. I want to turn it off for a second. Now I'm just going to show you a few features that ExpressVPN has. Now one cool feature is that you have a speed test feature. So let's say you're trying to use a different IP address because I don't know, you're trying to torrent or something, and you want to find out what is the fastest server you have on offer, so you can just run a quick test. Now, something with ExpressVPN, I don't know if other VPNs have that, is that it doesn't accurately represent your speed. My speed is actually about double that. It's not exactly 6. This is the fastest, giving me Paris 1 as the fastest one. But it does accurately represent the fastest server. So this is indeed the fastest server, but I have faster speeds. But yeah, that's just something to point out. So that's really cool when it comes to the speed test. If you're not familiar with VPNs, what a VPN does, it's a virtual private network, and it puts you through tunnels in order to protect your data using IP addresses all over the world. So there are ExpressVPN owned servers all over the world, and they have over 3,000 servers in 94 countries, which is huge. And what you want to do is a few things before you actually move on with using these servers to change your IP address is that only use ExpressVPN DNS servers while connected, which means these servers are going to be owned. You only want to use the servers that are actually owned by ExpressVPN, which will guarantee top security. This is definitely a recommendation that you should probably stick with. I like to use Lightweight because it's very effective when it comes to just generally connecting. It takes less than a second to connect to different servers around the world. As you can see, there you go, just connected. We want to connect to a different server, just straight up Italy, and there we go. Just a second to connect. This is what's really cool about Lightweight. OpenVPN is the best combination of speed and security, as it says here. And it's it's been tested over the years. OpenVPN is super secure, and it's just great overall. But, I'm not too worried about security right now. I just want speed, so I'm going to go with Lightweight. Now, another thing you want to keep in mind is that you want to keep the kill switch on if you don't want, let's say you're engaging in some activity that your ISP may not approve of, or maybe you're playing a game that you're not allowed to play in your country, God forbid, for whatever reason why. Now, the kill switch is going to cut your internet connection the moment your VPN connection is lost. Now, I have not experienced that with ExpressVPN. Maybe it's just because I guess it's a really good VPN and it's reliable. Well, not I guess, it is a very good VPN. It's been tested. It's one of the top VPNs out there. But the kill switch never seems to fail when it does. There haven't been any complaints anywhere. I haven't seen any complaints regarding the kill switch. If for whatever reason the VPN disconnects unexpectedly, it will cut your internet connection so that it doesn't leak your IP address, and your ISP won't be able to identify that, oh, well, we caught this guy playing PUBG on this IP address, and this IP address is in our country, and our country does not allow PUBG for whatever reason. So yeah, that's what the kill switch is for. Now, I don't need that really right at the moment, so okay, I need to turn it off. I don't need the kill switch, so yeah, there's nothing that's banned here. So yeah, so that would be how to change your IP address using a VPN. Now there are a few other uses. It's not just to change your IP address. If you don't want to just buy VPN solely just to change your IP address, obviously that's not what a VPN. That's not the sole reason why people have VPNs. Now, what I use a VPN for, you could use a VPN, for example, unlocking or unblocking geo restrictions and access different streaming libraries, for example. Or if I want to get some kind of good deal on a game, maybe a game in my country is like $60, but I could find it in other places, change my IP to Argentina or something like that access their browsing data, and I can get a $10 discount on that game. So, stuff like that. You just unblock geo restrictions, unblock maybe some Netflix libraries that you don't have access to in your country, some shows and whatnot. And a VPN is very useful when it comes to also shielding your data and keeping your data private. Now, I remember back in the days, I used my laptop at a cafe, and that is a public Wi-Fi in a cafe. And what ended up happening is was just terrible. So I opened my Facebook in that cafe, and I left there. Obviously, I was on my own Facebook, I was on my own laptop. But because it's a public Wi-Fi, the moderator there had access to all the data that is all the browsing data that's happening on their own network. And what ended up happening is that this guy went into my Facebook, and he messed it up. He really he messed it all up. And one of my colleagues at college called me at like 6 a.m. and she was like, "Hey, you're either really drunk, or somebody hacked your Facebook. Check it right now." And I woke up and I'm like, okay, well, that's a problem. But if I had a VPN back then, none of that would have happened, and I could have avoided all of the embarrassment that happened to me that day back in the college days, where people were like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to do that." And I'm like, "Come on, man, I got hacked. I wouldn't say something like that." But, so that's one reason you could use a VPN for. Obviously, if you're living in a country with heavy restrictions, you can also bypass these firewalls using obfuscation tools that really good VPNs have, like ExpressVPN. These obfuscation tools will essentially obfuscate your browsing data, and it will make it look like any other browsing data. And your ISP won't even be able to tell that you're using a VPN in the first place. So that's really cool. These are the uses for a VPN. Obviously not just changing your IP. That's just a given, really, when it comes to VPNs. Yeah, if you are interested, again, I'll leave some links in the description, and you could hopefully save some more cash if you're interested in ExpressVPN. And yeah, that would be it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. Sorry for the little story. I know nobody asked for that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. You have a good one.